The Dable village was among the many in Maharashtra's Palghar district that was severely opposed to the showpiece Mumbai-Ahmedabad bullet train project. However, in November 2021, the Gram Panchayat of the village passed a formal resolution in favor of the project and gave its letter of support for land acquisition. Dable is among the many villages that have come around over the past 2 years in a district that was perhaps the most stiffly opposed to the bullet train project. There has been a slow but steady progress in the private land acquisition for the 1.1 lakh crore project over the past 2 years in Maharashtra, despite political parties such as the Shiv Sena and tribal groups being severely opposed to it. The National High Speed Rail Corporation Limited, the implementing authority of the 508-kilometer line, has acquired almost 99% of the land that it requires in Gujarat, 100% in the Union Territories of Daman and Diu, and 71% in Maharashtra, as per data shared by the corporation with ThePrint. ThePrint tracked the progress on the ground in the Palghar district, where the NHSRCL requires the largest land parcel needed in Maharashtra and where the locals were most severely opposed to the project since its inception. Of the 433 hectares of land that NHSRCL needs in Maharashtra, 287 hectares or 66% is in the Palghar district. Of this, in the Palghar district, the NHSRCL has acquired 198 hectares, which is about 70% of the total land requirement in the district. District Collector Govind Bodke told ThePrint that overall more than 90% of the land required in Palghar has been acquired but has not yet been fully transferred to the NHSRCL. As per officials from the District Collector's office, the land acquisition that remains is not stalled due to any opposition to the project, but more because of legal and technical issues and titles not being cleared. As per the 2011 census, the Palghar district has a 30% tribal population. District officials and locals give the same reasons for why land acquisition picked up pace in the district, but there is a nuanced difference in the perspective through which they state them. Locals of villages that fall on the bullet train map say land acquisition gathered pace as district officials targeted individual landowners to get their consent, tried to convert small groups of people in favor of the project instead of tackling entire villages at once, and lured people with money.
आदिवासी के पास जमीन नहीं रहेगी तो आदिवासी जिंदा नहीं रह सकते। आदिवासी की लड़ाई जल जंगल और जमीन से है। आदिवासी के पास जल जंगल जमीन नहीं रहेगी तो आदिवासी समझो खत्म हो गया। जो 7/12 रहता है जमीन का, उसमें बहुत से सारे लोग हैं, मतलब उसके बुआ है, ये उसके लड़के, बुआ मर गए तो उसके लड़के लग गए 7/12 पे, तो उन लोग को अगर डायरेक्टली कांटेक्ट करते उनसे
जो यहाँ पे रह नहीं रहे, जो कहीं शिफ्ट
हाँ बाहर कोई शहर में रह रहे, किधर रह रहे, उनसे कांटेक्ट करते। उसके बाद भूमिहीन कौन हो रहा है, जो जिसका 7/12 पे नाम है पहले से, वो भूमिहीन हो रहा है, तो उसका सोचना चाहिए ना। वो लोग तो बाहर रहे तो चलेगा उन लोग का, लेकिन बाकी के लोग कहाँ जाएंगे।
Officials spin the same narrative as how they personally reached out to individual landowners and small groups of people in every village, attended Gram Sabhas, explained the project to them, and offered a fair compensation which was based on the highest rate in the area. Officials said, other than the actual compensation, people were concerned about the possibility of entire villages being displaced and in certain cases the landowners being different from the occupants, a very common issue on tribal lands. They tried to dispel these concerns by explaining that the bullet train is a linear project with just a 17.5 meter width, which means entire villages will not be displaced. For the first time, the authorities are also making landowners sign an MOU with occupants, saying they will share 30% of the compensation.
रहने के लिए हम लोग को जगह भी नहीं है, ये हमारा घर है इधर। अभी ये जो कुछ प्रोजेक्ट निकल रहा है, अगर हम लोग इधर से विस्थापित होंगे तो हम लोग को जगह भी नहीं रहने के लिए। ये लोग परस्पर आए हैं, अभी हमारा जगह ये तो घर तो जाने वाले हैं, हम लोग को भी प्रॉब्लम होने वाला है ना। तो हम लोग तो अभी उनको बोला है कि हम लोग दे रहे हैं, ऐसे नहीं बोले हैं कि हमारा ज़मीन आपको दे रहे हैं, ऐसे खुद के नाम पे नहीं दूसरे के नाम पे। मैडम ऐसा हुआ है, जो 7/12 वाला है ना, उसने पेमेंट लेके वो चुपचाप बैठा है, और जो जगह ज़मीन किसके जा रही है वो मालिक बैठा है, उसको पता ही नहीं।
Prakash Raute, whose family will lose about a third of an acre out of his 1.5 acres in the neighboring Kallale village, says the land is jointly held by 23 people in his family, and most land cases are like his. He said the land acquisition officers first contact and convince those owners who don't live in the village, who have nothing to do with the land, and who will be only too happy to get the money. When they agree, there is pressure on the other joint owners to also cave in. According to data from the Palghar District Collectorate, there were 71 villages in the district where land had to be acquired for the bullet train project, of which 44 are under the Panchayat Extension of the Scheduled Areas Act or the PESA Act of 1996. The Act legally recognizes the rights of tribal communities and allows for self-governance through Gram Sabhas. To acquire land in villages that form under the legislation, authorities need resolutions from the Gram Panchayats in concern. The project has managed to get resolutions from 41 such Gram Panchayats so far. However, most of these are conditional with an exhaustive list of development work that the villages expect government authorities to do in return. For example, the Dable village, which gave consent in November 2021, mentioned 27 conditions that government authorities will have to meet in exchange for the village's approval. These include a separate development fund for the village, restoration of the village temple, revamp of the local school, repairs to their community hall, a new park for the village, building a gym, and so on. The locals say there are only 3 families in the village who will lose their land, but a project like the bullet train will eventually affect the whole village. I'm currently near the Dable village in the Palghar district. This is the district from where the National High Speed Rail Corporation Limited, which is making the Mumbai-Ahmedabad bullet train, was perhaps facing the most stringent opposition for land acquisition. However, slowly but surely, they have now acquired about 70% of the land that they required for the project. Officials say they did this with a personal touch, by attending Gram Panchayat meetings, by meeting stakeholders who were supposed to lose their lands personally and convincing them about the benefits of the project and driving away any misinformation. However, villagers tell a different story. They talk about how officials particularly targeted those stakeholders whose names were on the land records but who don't necessarily live here to be directly affected by the project into giving their consent, and then used those consents to convince other stakeholders, reluctant stakeholders, to also come on board. Villagers also say that especially in tribal areas, there are issues of the land being owned by somebody else and occupied by somebody else, which is a tribal family. And in such cases, it is said that these families succumbed to fear and gave their consent, fear of losing everything if they don't come on board. Reporting for The Print, this is Mansi Phadke.